everyone. Welcome to today's episode. We are in the midst of Pisces season, which at least here in the Northern Hemisphere is a culmination point right here at the very end of winter and before the rebirth of spring. So although where I am, I hear birds in the air, I literally feel spring coming. It's also still covered in snow, the ground, up further than your ankles. And so I'm thinking that this would be a really good episode to transition out of winter and have some winter reflections and sort of prepare ourselves for this new rebirth of spring. So you'll see that in the journal prompt at the end. So the virtue associated with Pisces is magnanimity. And according to Rudolf Steiner in the anthroposophical tradition, magnanimity leads to love or becomes love. And I'm really learning about this, as we're discussing it. Magnanimity, even that word, it's not a word you actually encounter all that often. And upon, researching it and contemplating the word, it feels like it's more than its definitions. It's more than just one thing. Generosity, honor, self-sacrifice, forgiveness. And actually, when I really looked at it, it looks like magnanimity is a culmination of all the other 12 virtues, which we'll get in entirety in this series as we go through each sign. And so far, we're about halfway there as I'm recording this. It seems like all of these virtues can be encompassed in some way within magnanimity, and then magnanimity becoming love makes a lot of sense because love is right at the center. It is what we're, through the virtues, through our various practices, what we're striving for and wanting to really understand and put into practice. So I wanted to introduce the virtue before talking about the flower essence. So our flower essence is rock rose. And this is the essence for panic or terror or fear, especially something that puts you into a freeze mode. If you think about fight, flight, or freeze, it puts you into that freeze. It's perhaps a response that sends you maybe out of body. And I think this really does connect to the quality of Pisces, the sensitivity of Pisces, and sometimes even being prone to escapism, to kind of leave into other levels of consciousness, whether higher or lower, rather than being grounded on the earth and, really having to experience what is here on earth because of that sensitivity and that receptivity. So with rock rose being the remedy for such a state, I'll go ahead and read you the affirmation. It is, "My soul finds its anchor in the earth. My courage becomes rock bottom strong. Terra heals terror. I am this light, strong spirit on earth." And then connecting this with the virtue, it really makes me think of the concept of putting fear on one hand up against love on the other hand. And I've heard it said before that everything can fall into, one of those two categories. And I do think it is worthwhile to see how fear is the root of many things that are not love. But also the specific type of panic that the rock rose addresses is this feeling of being frozen and unable to move and unable to do anything. This is in direct contrast actually to this virtue of magnanimity, where you're really, giving of yourself, maybe despite the fear, despite of the uncomfort or the unknown. There's a sense of generosity with a feeling of duty and with honor, that in spite of any fear or misgivings, you are able to be generous in what you have to offer without self-motivation. And through this act and practice, that becomes love. And with love, we really do have to, step out of ourselves, but from ourselves, not from escaping ourselves. And in that way, stepping out of ourselves. It's from ourselves that we step out. You must plant yourself into the earth. And from that point, transformation through love is possible. It's a trust that there's something greater than our experience in this limited viewpoint, which I think is what Pisces can sometimes feel drowned by. So that really leads in actually to the oracle card that I pulled. This is from the Mother Mary Oracle by Alana Fairchild. And the card is Our Lady of Manifest Miracles. And it says, the very first line, it says, love seeks to manifest through you as you. So it's a different way of going out of yourself, which Pisces is prone to. It's going out of yourself to something higher, but from yourself, like I was saying earlier. So love is wanting to manifest. So love, not my personal self, but love that I can connect to, manifest through me and as me. I'm needed in this equation, actually. You're needed in this equation. All right, so then it says, it is not only your spirit that is to be blessed by love, but your body and your life too. You are meant to live a reality of divine love. You are meant to experience the presence of the divine in every day. Your spiritual life and material existence are not destined to be separate, but rather are to be united, enhancing each other, infusing each other with love in sacred relationship. My miracles are not limited to the world of spirit. They manifest in the material world as signs that divine love is alive in the here and now. Will you be a willing channel for my miraculous manifestations? I really appreciate, I just have to say, I really appreciate that in this deck we have a card that has, manifest as one of the words. And it's not talking about, projecting your thoughts out there for self-gain or like visioning your perfect life surrounded by all of your comforts, material wealth, dreams, aspirations, those sorts of things. But rather it's setting up this idea of something being able to manifest through you, which isn't actually going to be comfortable. It is going to have to require you to have a sense of bravery, of honor, of magnanimity, of a selfless generosity in what you're giving to the world. So I appreciate that because I feel like, the word manifest has really, it's taken on this whole other life in spiritual movements today. All right, I'll keep going with the oracle card. It says, we may think of miracles as special, out of the ordinary occurrences, yet Mother Mary teaches us that the miraculous is meant to happen every day. It already does. If only we have the eye of the heart open enough to see it, we would be sent into states of rapture at how marvelous divine creation is, at how extraordinary is the creativity that unfolds in every moment of our lives, and how miraculous intervention happens through divine grace. And how miraculous intervention happens through divine grace. Subtly, and yet inevitably, grace brings this person and that person together. It weaves the synchronicity into that which leads to another amazing moment of creation. Oh my goodness, I have to pause there. I think this is related and I'm not sure exactly how, but it just made me think of this. And I have to say, I had this experience recently in talking to someone that I've met more recently, like within this last year, and realizing that our lives, and this is also similar actually with my husband. I had a similar experience with my husband. This is also not the only experience I've had like this, but this was so apparent that our lives had actually been parallel for a little while and we didn't realize it, like living in the same town, kind of knowing the same people. And there were actually some decisions that I personally made in my life. I'm sure this is true on the other party, but had I made a different decision, we would have met. We would have immediately met. And since I was going off in other directions, that didn't quite happen yet. But here we are now, and we have met in a completely different circumstance. It's hard to describe how unlikely this actually is when I break down, like, I was in a completely different location before. Oh, and I heard about this recently with other people where it was like, oh, in a whole other state, they'd actually already met before. Like, I don't know, these things are wild. But I've come to the conclusion that there are certain things in our destiny, people, relationships with people, things to, kind of experience with each other. They're in our destiny. And yes, we have free will. Yes, we have free will to make choices. The future isn't set in stone. And yet, through our free will choices, we will still, many times, encounter the very thing because it's destiny. Anyway, I'm still wrapping my head around that. I had to mention it. Endlessly, the miracles of creation build upon each other in exquisite patterns of divine love simply happening. We can be fearful of not being in control of it, of not knowing how it is going to work itself out, or we can be in awe and trust and choose to surrender into the flow of the Mother's grace. And actually, I want to pop in there too and say that what I was originally talking about at the very beginning of this card about manifestation and how that's, become this thing in spirituality, I think it actually comes from the first part of that sentence, being fearful of not being in control of it. And actually, we do need to trust and surrender to something higher. Like, we do need to take responsibility and make our decisions from that place in each moment, but not from a place of trying to control or trying to plan out a path or an outcome. We have to be open and receptive, and from that place of open receptivity, we do the things that we do, and we make the change we make. Next it says, so vast is the scale of divine intelligence unfolding in perfect plan upon the earth, our mind might become overwhelmed and challenged by what is essentially unfathomable to anything other than the trusting heart that needs no explanation. No matter how we choose to look at things or respond, life itself, including the miraculous manifestations of the Divine Mother, continues. This oracle, however, brings to you a special task, if you are willing to accept it. This task is to become a sacred vessel through which the miracles of the Mother can be made manifest. Throughout history, there are stories of ordinary people who were asked by Mother Mary to perform some task or other. These tasks were not impossible, but were challenging because they asked each individual to put more faith in her will prevailing, than in the fears of those around them, even if they couldn't see how that could be possible. Wow, is that so related to what we're talking about? These people became known as saints, but they began just as you or I, ordinary people living their lives with a love for the Holy Mother and a desire to be open to the miraculous. To fulfill the task that the Mother will ask of you, whether you know that what that is right now or have no idea whatsoever as yet, you'll need to have courage. Courage will help you trust your heart as you sense her task for you. It might be a seemingly small task, such as planting a garden of flowers in your front lawn, which will benefit those who pass by. It might be a large task, such as speaking the truth in a relationship where you might fear that in doing so you will lose the relationship. It might be to write a book, or to come out of the spiritual closet, so to speak. It might be to pray for someone who hurt you, to ask for forgiveness for them. It might be to love yourself enough to say no to a relationship that is not right for you, even if there is love there. It might be to move to another place where your light is needed, even if you do not understand that at the time. It might be to support a cause that stirs your heart, or to go to a spiritual class or workshop, or to set some boundaries between you and family members who ask too much of you. Courage will also help to trust in her as we carry out her task. It is through our efforts in carrying out the task asked of us that we empower her to help us. It is difficult to help someone who won't help themselves. We have to give to receive. And as we receive, we are empowered to give. And wow, that is so true. And I think that's so related to this concept of magnanimity, of, generosity and giving yourself to the world and giving what you have, what you've developed, what you've cultivated within yourself into service in the world, and how in doing so help comes. Like when you're really doing that from a true place, help will come. And in giving, you're given back, but from being given back, you're actually able to give more. And that really is the goal, not to be given to. We need to have courage to start the cycle without trying to control it. We need courage to accept the help offered and to keep going. Our Lady of Manifest Miracles wants her presence felt, and her plan of love carried out through each one of us in the physical world, and that includes you. This oracle brings a special message also, that it is time now to put your spiritual principles to the test. It is time to rely on them completely as a way to live and move in the world. It is not only safe to do this, but the only way to really allow her miraculous love to manifest through you. Doing this will mean that all that is destined to be born through you in this lifetime can then be. You are being blessed by the Holy Mother, empowered by her, and asked to trust completely in her grace. So we have a journal prompt for reflecting on and closing out the winter season. And I felt like this prompt was very fitting for what we're talking about, since we're coming to this point of, unity, the unity of all the virtues, kind of the culmination point in the zodiacal year, and the culmination point right before the rebirth of spring. Again, if you're in the northern hemisphere, this applies. But actually, I think no matter where you are, there is a relationship between the fact that there is summer elsewhere and there's winter here, and vice versa. Like there is a relationship to that. So hopefully this is of value, even if you're elsewhere in the world. But the journal prompt is, during the winter, the darkest time of the year, we have the opportunity to really experience the light within. What turns you to your inner light? Is there a part of you that shies away from the inner light? Can you notice the difference between an unchanging, eternal inner light and distractions or sparks that are connected to your personal preferences and feelings? And the card pull, if you have a deck and you want to use it, the card pull prompt is, what is a way I can better connect to another's inner light of their true self? So when I worked with this, the card that I drew was the Hanged Man in reverse. And I found this card to be really interesting. And I do think it's actually connected what we talked about in the last episode with the Virgo full moon, which is, of course, opposite to Pisces, Virgo on the other side. But there's, going to be a relationship to the topics there. We talked about this a little bit because, and I really thought about it with this card, about connecting not with directly what's in front of you of like the person's personal self, if you're wanting to better connect to another's inner light, but of their true self, their higher self, which is beyond that. And there's something about that turning of the Hanged Man, turning it in reverse. It's like a card that's in reverse, and then you turn it in reverse, and then it's upright. And it's like finding that uprightness in yourself, finding that uprightness in another. So I found that card really interesting, and I'm actually still contemplating on it, because with the Hanged Man, I also feel like, there's this archetype of sacrifice, and perhaps sacrifice in the name of love. Which brings me to the flower essence to close out our session. So Rock Rose, the first one we had, being related to Pisces in terms of the 12 healers, the 12 original, the first Bach flower essences. And then FES has a line of 12 core heart remedies, and I've been working with that set of 12, and also putting them in relationship with the original 12 healers. And so the one that I have connected to Rock Rose, and therefore to Pisces, is Love Lies Bleeding. And this is a remedy to help with the ability to transcend personal pain beyond oneself. So someone who might want to take Love Lies Bleeding often gets kind of caught up in their own pain and their own experience, and has trouble kind of getting out of that and getting out of that loop and that cycle. You can see this sometimes with a sort of like a victim mentality, or just being really caught up in what has happened in the past. And in order to be of service, we really have to, for one, actually recognize that our pain is for a reason, and it can actually be put to use. So in a way, finding like a relationship of gratitude to our pain is really magnificent and challenging to do. Yeah, we have to sort of overcome that being stuck on our own personal pain, or then, of course, then also wanting to avoid personal pain, and therefore turning to comfort and what's comfortable. But yes, we will close out with our affirmation from Love Lies Bleeding, which is, I allow pain to be a teacher for me. I breathe into its meaning. I bend, but am not broken. I surrender, but remain serene. I am the light born from this embrace. Thank you all so much for listening to this episode, and I can't wait to be back with you at the start of the year with Aries. So I will see you soon, and have a wonderful end to your winter if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, and of course, to your summer if you are in the Southern Hemisphere. I'll see you next time.